15 Agustus 1971, peristiwa yang dikenal sebagai Nixon Shock terjadi.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
Meskipun Nixon mengatakan bahwa keputusan itu berlaku sementara, pada akhirnya sistem Bretton Woods dan Gold Standard berakhir. Ini tidak hanya mengakhiri kemampuan pemerintah asing untuk menukarkan dolar mereka dengan emas, tetapi juga memulai babak baru dalam perekonomian global yang bergantung pada mata uang fiat. Tapi tunggu, bagaimana selembar kertas yang tidak lagi terikat pada aset fisik apapun seperti emas memiliki nilai? Jawabannya sederhana, karena pemerintah menyatakan seperti itu dan masyarakat harus percaya dan menerimanya. Bagi pemerintah, uang fiat jelas memberikan keuntungan yang besar. Selain murah dan fleksibel untuk diproduksi, pemerintah juga mendapatkan kendali yang lebih besar untuk mengelola perekonomian. Semua terlihat baik-baik saja, hingga kamu sadar bahwa ada masalah di sana.
Governments have a right to declare something of no value to be money and you must accept it. That's really the problem and it's still the problem today. It's destroying the economies of the world.
Seperti yang kita ketahui, uang memiliki 3 fungsi penting sebagai alat tukar, unit hitung, dan penyimpan nilai. Sayangnya, uang fiat kesulitan menjalankan perannya yang ketiga, terutama dalam jangka panjang. Kenapa? Pertama-tama, kita perlu memahami stock to flow ratio. Rasio ini membandingkan jumlah total aset yang tersedia saat ini dengan jumlah terciptanya aset baru yang diproduksi. Rasio stock to flow yang tinggi menunjukkan sulitnya meningkatkan pasokan suatu aset dengan cepat sehingga membantu mempertahankan nilainya. Misalnya, emas. Sekalipun permintaannya meningkat, lambatnya tingkat produksi emas baru tidak akan mengubah stok secara signifikan sehingga menjaga harganya relatif stabil. Sebaliknya, rasio stock to flow yang rendah mengartikan mudahnya meningkatkan pasokan baru secara cepat sehingga mempersulit aset untuk mempertahankan nilainya. Uang fiat adalah contohnya. Jika permintaan meningkat, pemerintah atau bank sentral dapat mencetak lebih banyak uang tanpa banyak kesulitan.
You simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally, and we do that by buying treasury bills or bonds or other government-guaranteed securities, and that actually increases the money supply. We also print actual currency and we distribute that to the Federal Reserve Banks.
Masalahnya jelas, aliran uang yang terlalu banyak akan melemahkan nilainya dan memicu inflasi yang tinggi.
Argentina has been running a fiscal deficit for the last 13 years. If you're in a difficult time for 13 years in a row, well, you have a big problem.
Policies to counteract this deficit, like printing money, only make things worse.
Governments have become dependent on the central bank printing money to basically finance spending. And the more money you print, the worse inflation gets.
What level of inflation? 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%? Do you start to panic? All I know is when that level comes, everybody panics together.
But the problem is the actual monetary inflation rate isn't reported, nobody tracks it.
If you're thinking of buying 1 can of tuna, you're going to buy 2 because you know that tomorrow or even later on that day or the next hour that can of tuna is going to be costing you more. That you're going to be scrambling to get anything that's tangible.
So you then have a situation where people go out and they buy things just to get the hell out of paper money. And paradoxically, that then starts driving and accelerating demand for paper money because they want more paper money to go and buy things.
The initial reaction by the Fed will be to create even more inflation, to try to stimulate the economy by printing even more money, which of course is the source of the problem.
So you have this situation where the value of paper money starts collapsing in advance of its issue.
The only trick that the politicians in power today know, and the central bankers, the only trick they know is to create more money out of nothing, to inflate the currency. They have no other trick. So as long as we keep looking to them to be our leaders and solve the problem, how can we expect anything else? That's the only trick they know.
The system as it's been presently structured is that they have to continue expanding the money supply, otherwise the system is going to die.
Lalu, apakah mencetak uang yang berlebihan menjadi satu-satunya penyebab inflasi?
Any other attribution to other groups of inflation is wrong. Consumers don't produce it. Producers don't produce it. The trade unions don't produce it. Foreign sheiks don't produce it. Oil imports don't produce it. What produces it is too much government spending and too much government creation of money and nothing else.
Terlepas apapun penyebabnya, tantangan yang kita hadapi sama. Jika kita tidak mampu menghasilkan uang yang bisa melawan laju inflasi, kita harus menurunkan standar hidup kita. Bahkan, bagi beberapa orang, menurunkan standar hidup saja masih belum cukup. Untuk menghadapi kenaikan harga barang dan jasa yang terus-menerus, mereka terpaksa berhutang.
Pay letter tertinggi lo limitnya berapa? 25. Waduh, lebih tinggi dari sebelumnya ini. Gawat juga kalau gue boleh tahu buat apa tuh? Buat biaya hidup.
Ironisnya, hutang yang awalnya dipandang sebagai alat meringankan beban, lambat laun menjadi alat yang memperburuk keadaan. Mereka tidak hanya harus bertahan hidup seminimal mungkin, tetapi juga harus membayar hutang beserta bunganya. Di lain sisi, meskipun pemerintah selalu berupaya menstabilkan kondisi ekonomi, hasil jangka panjangnya selalu sama. Nilai uang fiat akan terus menurun dari waktu ke waktu.
Inflation is just like alcoholism. In both cases, when you start drinking or when you start printing too much money, the good effects come first. The bad effects only come later. That's why, in both cases, there's a strong temptation to overdo it, to drink too much and to print too much money.
Well, I think this is the end game. I think what we're experiencing now are the pains of the experiment in fiat currency coming to an end, and it is an absolute failure, not only for America, but for the entire world.
We stopped saving. The savings rate basically got down to zero because people were spending. They couldn't save in order to buy the same goods and services.
There have been dozens and dozens of currency collapses since the end of the Second World War, and they all result from the same thing, bad policies, bad management. It's on this road that I call the fiat currency graveyard.
There is a proven 100% failure rate. There is no exception to this. Fiat currencies always fail.
Jadi, apa yang harus kita lakukan? Menyalahkan pemerintah, keadaan, hal eksternal lainnya, atau menunggu keberuntungan? Walaupun sikap seperti itu bisa dimengerti, tidak seharusnya kita abai dengan pendekatan lain yang lebih produktif, yaitu mengelola diri kita sendiri. Dan harus kita akui, banyak dari kita yang masih kacau dalam hal ini.